Well, you know what they say, perfection can be the enemy of writing anything at all. Hello friends, I hope you're having a lovely day. For me, it's that quiet time of the semester when I'm reporting final grades and looking back on all the friends we made along the way. Every semester has a different flavor, different students, different classroom vibes, different things going on in the world and in everyone's personal lives. And looking back on this semester, I've noticed that I spent more time dispensing a particular piece of advice than I remember dispensing ever before. And it was something that I heard from a professor when I was close to the end of graduate school. And it's that the best dissertation is a finished dissertation. And of course, it's not just good advice for the sorry souls working on dissertations. The best paper is a finished paper. The best poem is a finished poem. The best novel, you guessed it, a finished one. And it really is a good reminder for all kinds of reasons, so let's get right into them. When I was a grad student, finals week always meant that I was in for a glorious writing binge. I usually had 3 or 4 30-page papers to write and 3 or 4 days to write them in, so as you could already guess, it was a vibrant and exciting week full of everything you'd find in your wildest dreams. At least as long as your wildest dreams included sitting at a cramped desk and typing on a little laptop propped up on a stack of textbooks so you don't have to hunch over quite as much, only taking breaks to top up your peppermint or chamomile tea depending on how well it's going. And bonus points are available if you're listening to YouTube's finest selection of music from the video games of your childhood. Because the volume of writing was so great and the amount of available time was so limited, there was no other option but to live the highest form of the truth that the best kind of paper is a finished paper. There just wasn't time to make sure that every comma was in the right place or that every sentence was a literary achievement. The paper on 18th century grammar textbooks just had to get done, because there was still a paper about research methods in writing program administration and a project about grading in professional communication classes to finish all in the next 2 days. Part of the lesson of those final weeks that were equal parts frenetic and totally sedentary was that it's valuable to be really clear and realistic about what your writing needs to be. A seminar paper in grad school does not need to be a showcase of your finest writing technique. It just needs to show that you've thought deeply about the course material and that you know how to form the kinds of arguments that academics form. So just do what you need to do and then move on. In every case, a seminar paper just needs to be good enough. Anything better than that is really a waste of time and energy. But that can be a hard lesson to learn. This semester, I had more students than I'm used to sit on writing projects long past their due dates. And when I checked in with them to see what was going on and how I could help, the sentiment was usually the same. They were worried that they wouldn't be able to write something good enough, so they were taking forever to write anything at all. In fact, one of them even said that they were struggling to write because they wanted to write something that I wouldn't be able to say anything about, which, for one, I can always find something, but also that would make the class a total waste of time for both of us. Now, we all get the idea, and I had it too, that school is where we're supposed to demonstrate our excellence. But that's really not it at all. It's a place to be candid about our limitations so that we can learn and improve. It's like the student who told me that they submitted an AI-written paper because then I wouldn't judge them for bad grammar. Well, judging people's grammar isn't my job, and teaching is impossible when you hide your own strengths and weaknesses behind the facade of AI-generated white noise. But I'm getting sidetracked. The point is this: at least in my class, the odds of getting a 50% on a paper are really small, but even then, a 50% is so much better than a 0. And even if you're one of those people who has to get an A, the standard for getting an A isn't 100%. But writers who freeze up because they're overly preoccupied with getting 100% are the ones who end up turning in nothing and getting a 0, and that's the saddest thing, because the writers who would end up doing really well in a class end up in bad shape because perfection, or at least a misunderstanding of what counts as good enough, gets in the way of something that really would be good enough. Really, the best kind of paper is a finished paper. If nothing else, just turn the thing in so you can get some points. Nobody is looking for the best college paper ever written, just one that demonstrates the right writing skills in a satisfactory way. Of course, it's not just good advice for students. Any writer can benefit from the reminder that the best kind of project is a finished project. Even me. It's fairly common, for example, for me to have an idea for a video and then sit on it for way too long because I'm worried I can't execute that idea well enough. On a few occasions, I've put myself in a position where I had to postpone an idea at the last minute and then do something shorter and easier because my stewing over perfection prevented me from doing anything at all in time. And you might be stewing over the perfection of your novel, or the perfection of the meter in your poem, or the perfection of your cover letter. The benefit of writing in school is that there is a due date. Ready or not, you generally have to turn something in at a particular time. But the writing of life is not always so constrained, and you're often free to do all kinds of procrastinating, comforting yourself with promises of perfection, while the work remains interminably unfinished. So I'll reaffirm that the best kind of novel is not a perfect one, but a finished one. And that's for a few reasons. First, it comes back to being clear about what your work actually has to be. Is your standard to be a Nobel laureate in literature? Well, if it is, that's going to involve a much higher standard than if your goal is to write something that regular old non-academic people can just enjoy in their spare time. I mean, it's a common enough phenomenon. Books that enjoy mass appeal are often not the most refined in literary terms. But they get the important things, story and entertainment, right, and readers are willing to forgive hiccups in the prose style. And your poem probably isn't going to make or break human civilization, so be real about what it does need to do. And if it just needs to share your insight into a unique experience, what counts as doing that job well enough? But fine, let's say that you are pursuing success at the apex of literary genius. You're not going to get there if you never finish your first draft. Even then, a finished draft is better than a perfect prologue. And I wish we did a better job of talking about revision. For good reasons, we call the activity writing, but I think the reality is that maybe 90% of the work is or should be in revision, with actual writing or drafting making up a tiny portion of the work at the beginning of the process. See, you can't revise a piece that doesn't exist. How can you see something in a new way if you've never seen it at all? Obviously, you can't. When you write something down, your relationship with it changes. Now it's not just a fun or interesting idea, it's a text that you can work on, that you can see and hear and manipulate in a way that isn't possible with just thoughts. To go back to those students who don't write anything because they're too concerned with writing something perfect, just from my experience with student writing, the odds of them writing a perfect first draft are very near zero. But the odds of us working together to produce a final draft that can qualify for a high grade are really good. The students who are serious about finishing drafts, seeking feedback, and making revisions are the ones who excel in the end. Thinking is closely related to writing, and thinking is an important part of the writing process, but thinking isn't writing, and worrying definitely isn't writing. Why use up all your working memory trying to craft and retain a perfect first draft in your head when you could just write a crummy first draft and then free up your working memory to do better things? The crummy first draft is a cornerstone of writing education, and for good reason. Writing is a skill that develops with practice. And it really is through practice, not contemplation, that this happens. In its most radical form, I've even heard of writers who write their first novel just for themselves, learn how to write novels from that first experience, and then go on to publish their second novel. In cases like that, the finished first novel was a necessary step towards writing the second one. If the first one never got finished, the second one never would have been published. And in a less extreme form, you wouldn't need to look any further than this show to see how finishing things and learning from practice leads to the refinement of creative skills. I published my first video a little over 4 years ago, and it's radically different in terms of presentation and process from where I am now. Now I'm making videos that align more closely with my vision, but that wouldn't have been possible if I had never learned what I learned from finishing those earlier videos. And of course, I'm still learning, and I hope today's video looks as quaint in 4 years as my first one does today. But that's exactly it. The best video is a finished video. By practicing the skill of translating my thoughts and vision into video, I'm getting better at it. And by practicing the skill of translating your thoughts into written language by finishing projects and then starting new ones, you'll get better and better at it, and the gap between your imagination and your writing will get narrower and narrower. So yes, I really do mean that the best kind of project is a finished project. Because an idea that only ever stays an idea is really no project at all. Well, my friends, thanks for spending some time with me today. It's always a treat for me, and I hope it is for you too. As we part ways once more, I hope you'll take a look at some unfinished project that's been hanging over your head, and then do whatever you need to do to just finish it, even if it's sloppy. One of the most beautiful things about writing is that you can always go back and spruce it up before anyone else sees it. A bad first draft costs so much less than an aspirational idea that never finds its expression. So good luck finishing something, and while we're at it, I'll pronounce this video finished too. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one.